Yeah, go ahead. What do you think in terms of the culture
So,
and the relationship of popular culture to the violence?
my name is Alanis. I'm 14, and I understand what you're talking about because nowadays women are very, I say, out there. They portray themselves differently, and so men do also. How they like to portray themselves, such as in Baltimore City, mostly the violence is up, and half of the guys have their pants hanging down out their butts or hanging on the corners. And me growing up, I have a relative in New York, and I usually transition back and forth to Baltimore and Manhattan. And in Manhattan, I feel a lot safer. I can walk around the corner without having to call my mom, telling her I'm going around the corner to go somewhere. But in Baltimore, if I want to walk somewhere, I would have to tell them where I am or anything. I think the crime rate is high because over generations and over time, how technology is being used and what we see on TV and magazines that influences us, and especially as youth, we're growing up now, and it's like if you sit something in front of us and we like it, we're going to keep wanting it, and it's just like it's drawing our attention. So I think if they put they if the city put more things out there, more like the world put better things to influence us out there than like the TV ads and everything, I think that would change how we act.
They're teaching us what to think rather than how to think. Because if you tell a kid you have left and you have right, and you have right and you have wrong, and you tell them the options of both, like this is the good way, this is the bad way. When you tell them that if you do the bad thing, something bad's going to happen, you tell them something good comes out of the good thing. And like today, like music and everything is biased. You only see one side, and usually it's the negative side, which is bad, which I think plays into like the crime and things like that. Because it's just like every man for themselves these days. Like if you have like off of what Miss Deanna just said, like people are becoming like for themselves. Like it's no I help you, you help me. It's just I'm in it to win it, like for myself. Sorry, I don't care about you. I'm sorry. Like
Again, it used to be different, didn't it? Like if you look at the civil rights movement in the 60s, there used to be a lot of collective organizing, like a collective way to find solutions. And I think actually you made a good point. It was like after the big riots at the end of the 68 and 69. How many you guys, have you ever seen pictures of the tanks that were in the streets of Baltimore then?
Yeah. I saw
Soldiers, tanks. I mean, a lot of the drugs started flooding in right after that. Yeah. What do you think of his point that this has to do with, well, first of all, poverty, and then the destruction of the communities?
What I think what he said about poverty is that when you put someone in that type of situation, they'll do anything to get out of it, like literally anything, even if it comes down to stealing from your own family members and hurting your own. Like they will do anything to get what they want or to make themselves better. Like everybody wants to be happy, everybody wants wealth and to live comfortably, basically. So when you don't have the right pathway to get you to that point, you take the negative pathway to get you to that point. It still might lead you down the same road, but it's different obstacles you take to get there. And sometimes it's not good. Sometimes it is good. But it all depends on the person.
Who else? Go ahead, Kat.
So my name is Kat, and I'm 21. I think there's a lot of violence because there's like a severe like undervaluing of people in this city, and I don't think it's a thing of people not being kind anymore. I think it's hard to do the right thing or really care about your community when the community or the city doesn't care about you. So like we have severely underfunded schools. We don't have recreation centers. Nobody cleans up your community. There's drugs. There's a lot of police. And that's not a way that you show people that they're valued. If people are like shown that they're respected and valued, then they're going to act a certain way. But we don't have those things. And how are you supposed to elevate to a higher status or like do the right thing when you don't have those things? Like people were saying that it's like everybody's focused on themselves. Like, yes, they are, because nobody cares about them. So why are you going to care about the rest of your community when nobody cares about you, and you have to kind of focus on yourself just to get out of that situation. But if the city did what they were supposed to do, like fund schools, actually work on like providing spaces for youth and the community members to like do positive things, and I think that that would be a better situation.
You guys know Maryland, I guess you know Maryland is one of the richest states in the country, right?
You have never known, though.
There's more multimillionaires in Maryland. From what one stat I saw, there's more multimillionaires in Maryland than anywhere else in the country.
You have never known that.
Which means, you know, if people were paying taxes, there'd be a lot of money to deal with these situations. Well, why do Kat, why do you think the situation is like this? Like if the city did this, if the city did that, well, why doesn't they? And you're talking about the city council gets elected by people here.
Right. I too think it's a setup, but
What does that mean? What does that mean, setup?
A setup. So we're a majority black city, and I don't think that they want a majority black city. So why are you going to provide spaces, positive spaces for black citizens in your city when you don't want them? So Stephanie Rawlings Blake talked about she wants 10,000 new families, but she's not providing those things that black families need. So she's supporting things in white communities that are good for their communities but not good for our communities.
This is a majority black city council.
She's talking
Yeah.
about the mayor.
Yeah.
You said the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I agree with Kat said too. I saw an ad on the subway going to work today. How you know, even around the in poverty area, sell me your house for any number, and I think it said from 1,000 to 10,000. When these homes are worth over $200,000 to $300,000, that's in poverty. And and also I saw, and even on ads in the subway. Go back to that one. The mayor have this campaign is about rebuilding Baltimore or something like that, where they, I guess when I thought about it, they taking people, different minorities other than blacks from out of the county, want to bring them back into the city. And I'm like, how's that, and they now I heard they have Section 8 housings in the county. These big extraordinary homes and stuff. I have a family member who has a house in the county. It's very nice. And I was shocked to find that Section 8, they have Section 8 in the county for those type of things.
Yeah, go ahead.
My name is Brenda, and I live over East Baltimore. And going back off of what Dominic was saying, like the mayor want to build more houses, but most of East Baltimore is boarded up because of John Hopkins. They're closing everything and closing all our houses and tearing it down just to build big more buildings for John Hopkins. But I'm not understanding why they pushing everybody back into the county and then wanting to bring them back in the city.
Why do you think?
To me, I didn't understand the point of them pushing everybody out of East Baltimore and building everything up and tearing everything down just to build another building, because John Hopkins taking over just about all of East Baltimore, because it's not that many houses and there's a lot of apartments around, but it's too many kids and not enough homes.
There's a lot of focus on the mayor, but mayors come and go, and it's not like that difference in policy. It's been more or less the same kind of city policy for decades, and it's not. You think it's just about the mayor? There's the governor, there's a president, and it's like who? Let me ask you this question to everybody: who do you think who has power in Baltimore?
People should.
Well, they say that the citizens have the power.
But I don't believe that, honestly.
We should.
We just have a voice. I feel like we had these town hall. Sorry to cut you off, but we had these town hall meetings at Douglas, and the mayor would come by. We would talk and talk for hours and hours.
Yeah, you got to hold the mic.
I'm sorry. And we would talk.
You're doing multimedia. You got to know that.
We talked for hours and hours and hours just to hear people's voices. Matter of fact, I'm not going to use that as an example. I'll use the example about the school system. They said they proposed to cut down, close down certain schools and do all that. And I remember when we had Chicopin, my middle school was closing, and we had all alumni come to the school board meeting to talk about, well, why they don't think they should close the school down, this and the third. I honestly believe that they have their plan set up, and they also had made the proposal. Why are you sitting here having us waste our time and our breath just to talk to you when you made up your mind? and that's how I feel. Like I feel like they make it seem as though we have power and all this type of stuff, but once they get elected in, yeah, that's it. But I'm not bashing none of them because I could be wrong. I don't know. It could be 15% of them doing that, but I know it's something inside of that government that's like we don't really care about certain things that they need.
So let me ask other people. Well, who's making the decisions and in whose interest? I mean, if you're saying it's not in your interest, these decisions, then in whose? And who's got power in the city?
Well, if I could say something, I wanted to make a comment to
Can you lean back
what
just a bit
Kat
again?
said.
Okay. Yeah.
We've been saying the city doesn't do this, the city doesn't do that. And there are things that our leaders that are in place, we feel that they haven't done or promises that they may have made. But I think what's important to realize is that we are the city. You are the city. We are Baltimore. If you're waiting for the city to come to your front door and pick up the trash on your street, that should be you, or that should be me. If you're waiting for, we have to be, like they say, be the change you want to see. You can't wait for people to come to your neighborhood. I mean, the mayor is not going to walk down, or whomever is not going to walk down to your neighborhood and start cleaning or start doing all these things that you want to happen. We have to make it happen.
In what way? I mean, you have a right to have people live in the city owes you certain services. So, I mean, if your neighborhood's not getting clean and other neighborhoods are getting clean.
Right, and I mean, I think that's why I do agree with the part of her saying that there's like an underappreciation, because you feel a difference when you're in your neighborhood. Maybe your neighborhood is dirty and there's a lot of rundown houses that are boarded up, and then you go into this other neighborhood that may only be a few blocks away, because there's a lot of different neighborhoods where you cross the street and it's a whole nother world. And you're like, well, why does this area look all nice and then my area is just all messed up and dirty and stuff like that? But I think people, especially young people, you feel that you don't appreciate your own. People don't appreciate their own neighborhoods. We have to take care of our neighborhoods. We have to keep the streets clean. We have to keep our houses up so that our neighborhoods look nice and all those kinds of things.
But one of the things that goes with chronic long-term poverty is chronic long-term depression. It's kind of hard to get up and clean and feel like you want to. When you feel like there's not much options for you in life.
Yeah, I think that's true. Like, you don't feel like, well, why should I make the effort to do this to keep my neighborhood? But I just feel like, why are we can't always wait for the next elect whomever to come and save us.
Baltimore used to be quite a political place. Like, if you go back in the 50s and 60s, there are people who got organized. People said, okay, we can't accept these kinds of conditions and we're going to do something about it. What's happened to that? Why isn't there more of a kind of collective movement here to deal with this?
I actually have another question that might hijack your conversation, but
I mean, it's a completely different track.
It was about the question of safety and feeling safe in the communities.
Yeah, sure, go on.
So what you said about you don't feel safe in Baltimore, Lane, that really struck a chord with me. And I wondered, just by a show of hands, who in here feels safe in their communities?
Feel safe.
Yeah.
You do feel safe.
But
to a certain extent, if I walk down the street, I don't feel safe.
Now, so my follow-up question to that is, who feels safe in general in the city of Baltimore? And I just kind of wondered why you don't feel safe in Baltimore, but you feel safe in Manhattan, when it's the complete opposite for me. And I know I'm not from there, but the idea of just walking around Manhattan by myself is not something I would do. I'd do that in Baltimore, but I wouldn't do it there.
Well, you can see in the numbers. If New York had murder rates of Baltimore, there'd be something like, I think the number was just under 4,000 murders in Baltimore. The per capita murder rate in Baltimore is way higher than New York, even though New York's not low compared to other places.
Well, New York isn't the best place, but since I've been there for a while, I can tell a difference. So in my neighborhood, there's I say corner stores and liquor stores, and there's always guys hanging on the street, drug dealers, I guess. And then the apartment I stay in at New York, I might go outside, and there's a gym across the street. There's a restaurant down around the corner. The park that I go to is across. So
Let me
it's
go back
just-
to what I was asking. But actually, I'll start with another question first. How many people know someone who's involved in, I'm not obviously not going to ask you to name names or something, but how many people know people who are involved in the drug business one way or the other, and who are involved in kind of fairly hardcore violent activity? So that's what, at least half the people here. What do you think would change things for them? What do you think they need to get out of that?
For the most part, the people that I know that deal drugs just deal like low scale, like weed, basically nothing like high up like cocaine, crack, none of that. So in their case, I think the only way to make them stop dealing weed is if weed was to be like a corporate business,
I mean,
like legalized. So I mean, I'm not saying legalize all drugs, but in their case and in the cases of like many people, if you want to stop the circulation of weed per se, legalize it, make it a corporate business so people don't get the profit they used to get from selling the drug. And in that case, then one could bring up, what about crack? What about cocaine? Weed and cocaine and crack have different degrees that vary. Like, I mean, cocaine and crack would like really mess with your system, unlike weed. But that, I'm not a doctor.
How much of the violence that people have experienced or know of is kind of a direct offshoot of the drug business, and how much is kind of more sort of domestic, alcohol often related stuff that comes from, destruction of communities? Yeah, go on.
Hi everybody doing? My name is Twan. I'm 22. I'm a little sick, so bear with my voice. So I've been listening and thinking, and to pretty much sum it all up, it's kind of like two parts. What's wrong? Hold the mic up. All right, it's kind of like two parts. So like after slavery, there was no value on black life. You see what I'm saying? And so, like, during slavery, a black man or black woman is worth X amount of dollars because they can provide a service, or they can provide to help to reach they can help process the good, maybe like pick cotton or grow some rice or whatever. So their life was worth something. So it didn't matter. There wasn't a lot of killing of black people. After slavery, there is no value on black life, and so once slavery is over, right there, that's kind of where the violence in terms of killing black people starts, for me anyway. Then the second part in terms of violence in Baltimore or anywhere really with you've been using the term per capita, like high murder rate per capita, all of that violence comes out of need and necessity. You feel me? Selling drugs, all of that. Nobody does that because they want to. It's because they had to. A lot of people grew up in Baltimore City under the same conditions. People just choose to do a lot of the different things, but nobody wakes up like, all right, I got food, I got clothes, my people's eating, I'm getting education, but I'm gonna sell drugs. It don't work that way. That's not how it happens. There's a deficiency in your life, and you're trying to sell drugs in order to make up for that deficiency. And just in terms of Baltimore in general, there's not a lot of resources, you know what I'm saying? And so when you got a predominantly black city with not a whole lot of resources that pit people against each other. But that's not a coincidence. That's a part of a system of racism. Like, racism is a systematic thing. And part of that is to destroy black people. And it's two-part, right? So like one part is through education. That's why the school system sucks. And another part is just straight killing. That's why it's mad violence. And actually the third part is why a lot of black people in jail also. And so you got the situation where it's not a lot of resources, but people got to eat. You got to make your ends meet, but it's not a lot of options. And you don't really got no education, but that don't mean the light's not going to get cut out and your baby not going to stop crying. You see what I'm saying? So now you got to figure out a situation. You got to make a lot of money and fast. And so you usually do something that's illegal, but chances are if you're getting involved in something illegal, there's probably some violence attached to it. But all of these things aren't coincidences. These things happen on purpose. It's all, like my man said, a setup. I just like to call it racism.